you are, I give you glory. Right here. Because of who you are, I give you praise. Right here again. Because of who you are, I will lift my voice and say, Lord, I worship you. Right here again. Because of who you are, Lord, I worship you. Right here again. Because of who you are. Right there. The suspension chord is one of those chords you probably don't use that often, but it's a simple 3-note chord that can really add a little bit more spice to your playing. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you 2 places that I typically use the suspension chords, and I'm going to demonstrate a variety of songs that you can slip this chord in to just add a little bit more flair and color to your sound. All right, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Warren McPherson. If you're new here, and this is a channel where you learn gospel piano by ear. So if you like that stuff, be sure to stick around and hit that subscribe button so you can be notified of new content like this. Today we're going to talk about the 3-note suspension chord that is not used a lot, but it's something you can totally whip out and use across multiple songs. Be sure to also stay tuned towards the end. I'm going to show you how you can take that simple 3-note chord and build it into one of the most powerful used gospel chords in music. All right, so let's dive right in. Today we're going to be working out of the key of G major, and this is the G major scale. Just a quick refresher. And the diatonic chords for the key of G major. G major is the 1, A minor is the 2, B minor is the 3, C major is the 4, D major is the 5, E minor is the 6, F sharp diminish is the 7. It's good to know the diatonic notes of the chords for every key like that from the number system. That's one of the foundation as to how we play by ear. Now let's talk about the makeup of the suspension chord. And the easiest way to think about it is you take a major chord and you raise the 3rd degree of the chord or the middle note up a half step. Like that. And you get the suspension chord. It has this unresolved sound. Let's try another chord. Let's go to the key of C. Take the middle note, raise it up a half step, and you get a suspension chord. So oftentimes you might hear this in songs. Whenever you hear that sound, that's what they're doing. They're just playing with the suspension chord and resolving it. Suspension, resolve it. So that's really the basic makeup of a suspension chord. If you want to get a little bit more technical, we can look at it through the lens of the intervallic makeup. So the way we count interval in music is we step and count. Counting half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can say the distance between the first 2 notes of the suspension chord is 5 half steps or an interval of a perfect fourth. And then we add an interval of a whole step top of that, or 2 half steps, 1, 2. But that's the more technical approach. The easiest way, build a major chord, raise the middle note, you get a suspension chord. That's it. All right, now let's talk about its application. Now, the suspension chord is predominantly used on major chords, and it's used on either the 1 or the 5. 99% of the time, whenever a suspension chord rears its head, those are the places you're going to be seeing it used, right? Let's take the first example, and I'm going to jump back to the key of G. The tried and true hymn that everybody knows, Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved. So you see how I used it right there? Once I get back to that 1 chord, I just throw in that suspension and resolve it back to the 1 for color, right? Let me do it again. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, right here, that saved a wretch. Here's it again. So when I go to that A7, I made it into a suspension resolution like me. Here's it again on the 5. And I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now, here is it again, I see. So I use it in 3 spots. I threw in a secondary dominant, which is on the A, and that's where I added a suspension as well. That's a little bit more of an advanced technique, but at its core, I want you to see that the 3 chords that I used it on were major chords. 2 of those chords were the 1 chord, and the other was the 5 chord. So whenever you find yourself going to a 5 chord for an extended period of time, and by extended, I simply mean you're holding the chord for like 4 beats or so, there's a strong chance you can cut that measure in half, use the first half for the suspension, the second half for the resolution, as I demonstrated in Amazing Grace. Let's jump to another song. And this one, I'm going to use the Tasha Cobbs, Fill Me Up. For those of you who are not familiar with it, let me sing a little bit of it. So I'm going to play that in the key again. So, let me pull up my lyrics here so I can see what's going on. You provide the fire, and I'll provide the sacrifice. That's it, right? You provide the spirit, and I'll open up inside. Right here. Fill me up, God. Fill me up, God. Fill me up, God. Fill me up. Fill me up, God. Fill me up, God. Fill me up, God. Fill me up. Right there. So when we go to that 5 chord, typical 5 chord, whatever the spin, fill me up, right? You can just hold that 5 chord, but it gets a little bit monotonous. So you just slip in that suspension, me up, and then resolve. Now, oftentimes you might even see me color it. I do, with that little turn, dee-dee-dee-dee-da. And there you go. That's how you can slip it in. And in this case, we're using it exclusively on the 5 chord because of the makeup of this song. We don't hang out on the 1 chord for any significant period of time, because here's the thing, you want to have that time. And so one of the reasons why it works often on the 5 is because we're either having what is known as a half cadence or a full cadence happening. A half cadence is when the song ends out on the 5. And if you look at it from a literary perspective, wherever we would have a period, the end of a sentence, the end of a paragraph, the end of those sections, if the end of that lyrical content happens when we're on the 5, that is most likely a half cadence happening there. And a full cadence is just when the 5 is resolving to 1. When the 5 resolved to the 1, or from the literary perspective, where the full stop at the end of a sentence, a period, or the end of a phrase, a paragraph, when that happens on the 1 chord, we most likely have experienced a full cadence. So those are the 2 spots. And in both of those cases, those are the spots that are perfect for that suspension chord. Let's try another song, because what I want you guys to see is how I'm using this across multiple styles of song. Now I'm using the same key for all of these songs to keep things cohesive for you. Let's look at another one, Because of Who You Are, right? By Vicki. Establish the key for this one. Because of who you are, I give you glory. Right here. Because of who you are, I give you praise. Right here again. Because of who you are, I will lift my voice and say, Lord, I worship you. Right here again. Because of who you are, Lord, I worship you. Right here again. Because of who you are. Right there. So you see, every time in this song I go to the 5 is because I have that length of time happening, right? The first one, because of who you are, I give you glory. That's the end of a sentence. Because of who you are, I give you glory. That's a phrase, that's a cohesive thought, that's a sentence in itself. And at the end of it, where we find ourselves on the 5, so we can put in a resolution, a suspension, and then embellish it. Right? Then, because of who you are, I give you praise. Same thing. Because of who you are, I will lift my voice and say, Lord, I worship you. Right here. Because of who you are. Woo. Lord, I worship you because of who you are. And go, Jehovah Jah. You know what I mean? So that would have come next. But you can see all in these cases, the suspension chord isn't needed for the song. I am intentionally putting it there to help create color, because I can further even embellish it. You notice when I went on that 5 I did? You see all those embellishments? That's stemming from the fact that I was coming from a suspension chord. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's one. Let's look at one last song. And this is The Oceans by Hillsong. Beautiful song. Particularly, I like this sort of chorusy bridge section when you're doing Spirit leads me where my trust is without border. Let me walk upon the water wherever you will call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit leads me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters. Right here. Whenever you will call me. Again. The presence of my. And then I can start to embellishing it coming out of that suspension. Spirit leads me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you will call me. run with it and go wild. And I'm getting into some improvisational stuff there. So those are the two places that you can use. And again, try this with all the songs you're currently learning. Chances are all of them have the potential to use this suspension chord. Now, I did promise a little goodies. I'm going to show you how you can further extend this suspension chord into one of the known gospel chords. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks like this. Oftentimes, you'll hear this be referred to as a sus2, sus4 chord. And Ridiculous is showing a D9 sus4 chord. Some people call it the 4/5 chord, whichever one makes sense to you. The key note is we have a 4 chord in the right hand and a 5 chord in the left hand. So if you look at it without the additional note, you kind of still have the core of the suspension chord, right? So all I'm doing, I'm just dropping the 5th of the chord, the A, and I'm just adding the E and the C. And that's what gives us that 4/over chord, right? And I said it is used extensively in gospel because it is. You know, you might be hearing sometimes in the gospel praise stuff they're doing, right? Right? And then they go, that's what's happening right there, that chord. And then they go, they're playing the same version of the chord down here. So it doesn't only have to happen on the 5 chord, but it predominantly happens there. And it's going to be the easiest place to implement it first. Right? It's that 4/over chord. And if we jump back to the because of who you are, we can use that as a substitute on the 5 chord in some places. So, because of who you are, I give you glory. Right here. Because of who you are, I give you praise. Again. Because of who you are, I will lift my voice and sing, Lord, I worship you. Again, because of who you are, Lord, I worship you. Because of who you are. So oftentimes you can use that sort of what I call the extended version instead of just the suspension. But this one is a little bit tricky because it gives it more of that gospel-y feel. So if you're doing something heavy CCM, you kind of have to just listen and say, does it sound too much gospel? Right? But it's something that I use extensively. In fact, I think I've completely replaced using suspension chords with this version of the chord in most cases, especially when I'm playing the 5. If we go back to Amazing Grace again too. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved the wretch like me. There it is. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now, right there, I see. Right? So you see, in that case, every time I'm going to that 5, I'm using that sort of hybrid suspension, sus2, 4/5, whatever you want to call it. I think we might be able to use it in oceans as well. Let me see. I've never tried it. So let's test it right now in person. So, Spirit leads me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters whenever you... See? Nope, doesn't work. So in this song, I wouldn't do it. This one needs a suspension. Whenever you will call me. So in this case, and I'm glad that I tried it because you get to see an example of where it just didn't sound good. And this is how I make decisions about music. Does it sound good or not? Doesn't matter what the theory says. Doesn't matter what you learn on YouTube from Warren. If you play it and it sounds funny to you, don't use it. So in this case, I now know if I'm playing a song, I can't use that chord right there because it doesn't sound right. It doesn't fit. But the other two examples sound great. All right. So that's all I have for you guys in how you can spice up your songs with suspension chords. I have a downloadable PDF for you in the description down below. 7 steps to naming any chord. So if you're struggling with your chord theory and you're not sure how to figure out the chords you're playing, or when you see them written down, how to play them, this PDF is going to clarify all of that for you. 7 steps to naming any chord. Click the link down below to download that. It's a free PDF. And lastly, if you like this content and you want more, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, so you can be notified when we post new content like that. And little things like that really does help the channel to grow, spread the word so we can help more people. And lastly, if you want to take your piano playing even further beyond what you're learning on YouTube with more structure and guidance personally from me, then you want to check out pianolessonwithwarren.com, my private premium membership where I put my heart and soul and have been developing for the last 8 years or so. Currently helping thousands of students, so be sure to pop in there, check it out, see if it's right for you. All right? Love to hear from you. And if you want more content exactly like this one, check out this video right here. See you next week.